Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom. Today we're talking about United States Grant.
Oh my God, Johnny. First try, you get it right. It is, in fact, United States Grant and his presidency. We are now
very
up
best
to
name. Any
the
president.
18th president of these United States and all the shitbags at the things that the presidents get up to, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And why should U.S.
He had a tough road, though. He was the first elected president after the war, and
Yes, yeah.
you know that's
and
tough.
don't let the Union
That's tough.
uniform distract you. I will be picking apart Grant's presidency because the theme of the show is middle of the road, laissez-faire, shitbag.
Oh.
Kind of.
Okay, so you're not quite the bootlicker you look today.
No, not today.
Okay.
No, not today. No,
not
today.
Let's go ahead and disparage another one of our great presidents. Let's go.
Yep.
That's great.
Start where we start with all the presidents, Johnny, and that's slavery. He will be our last president of these United States that technically owned slaves, at least at one point in time in his life. Now, despite the fact that his father was very much anti-slavery and very much an abolitionist, Grant took the meh approach, like I'm not gonna like lose any sleep over it. I'm not gonna fight against it, and I'm not going to support it either. But
no sweat off his back. You know.
Yeah, he will marry into one of the larger slave owning families. So that's
that's nice. So go ahead. He'll be a benefactor.
Not great, and he definitely gets a lot of benefits from his in-laws' slave ownership, including owning a human being, because that's
right. Well, you know.
What he did. Now,
you know, like you said, he's the last president who was able, not the last president who would have chosen to own people. Let's be clear about that. There were plenty others that, given the chance,
that could have after him.
Have.
Yeah. No, he'd owned one slave. Now your lost causers are like, he didn't own any slaves, but Grant was a slave owner. That's bullshit. Like, they both owned slaves, and we owned far more slaves.
Who owns one slave? Like, what do you? That's a personal assistant.
And that's the thing. So if we're going off of purchase records or ownership records, we have no proof that Grant ever even owned a single human being. The only reason that we know that he did was because he actually freed them, and we have the manumissions paperwork, which is like the freedom paperwork that he gave to the one slave that he did in fact own. Likely, and we don't even know how long he owned them. Could it have been a week? Could it have been a month? Could it have been a year? Could it have been 10 years? We don't.
Could have been the guy's whole life. Who knows?
It could have been likely at some time in the 1850s, after Grant retires from the military, and by retires I mean gets forced out for drinking.
Before he becomes a hero.
And before he becomes a hero again, where he gets put back into the military.
Right. Because we have such a shortage of people who are able to do things, so we just keep recycling them.
In the war we definitely in the Civil War we definitely did. Now, we do know that he tried his hand at business. That failed. Eventually, he does try his hand at farming or plantation owning, and that's where we think that likely the father-in-law gifted or bequeathed this one slave by the name of William Jones to U.S. Grant, who then U.S. Grant, despite being in very dire economic situation, frees William Jones outright. No, nothing. Actually, even gives some monies to this individual so that he's not completely destitute.
I mean, that's a pretty good guy thing to do. Like, that's cool.
I'm putting it in context. He owned a person, but he does free that one person he does own. He does it outright. By all accounts, from his father-in-law, he was a very shit slave owner who didn't know how to manage slaves or people, for that matter. So
not a
take
bad
all
guy.
that what you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take that to mean that he treated them like people and not like property, and so he was not good at it.
Yeah,
in the way they might. Classify somebody as a proper slave owner.
He's just middle of the road, and
like,
that's kind of a theme.
That's a dude like me.
That's a dude. That's a human being. Yeah, but again, he's not going to fight for the rights for.
No. We're not going to go that far.
Yeah,
he's not like, hey. I'm going to go ahead and use my power to now fight for you or anything. Just, you go be free, and good luck to you and your people in the future. I don't know.
Yeah. And so then we jump into race relations in general for U.S. Grant, which during the Civil War, he does create a very troubling military order where he makes all the Jews leave Confederate-occupied territories because he believes that they're all greedy, shady spies without any proof of all of that. Now, he does apologize as president for that order.
Okay.
But that's not.
Well, then
that's not great.
So we can forget about it. He apologized. It's all water under the bridge.
No. And then immediately post-Civil War, he is still in charge of Reconstruction as far as the military end is concerned through Johnson's presidency, or at least through portions of Johnson's presidency. And unfortunately, Grant, as this laissez-faire, wants to think the best of people. In his experience down in the South, he thinks that he's capitulated the Confederate sympathizers, the Confederate soldiers, the Confederate congressmen, all that. He thinks that they've acknowledged that the war is over. He thinks that they've accepted surrender. He thinks that they're willing to move on. And he thinks that they're going to accept the former slaves as human beings. And he writes all this up in a report, sends it to Johnson, who then goes, oh, okay, so we'll let them run for office again. And immediately they then take over government in the South and create black codes, and the KKK starts to run rampant, and other racist hatred organizations run rampant. All because Grant thought that they were.
They didn't do those things. And I don't suppose 100+ years later, there's still folks who haven't come around to the fact that the Confederacy isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah, they're still there. Grant was way off on his assessment of the situation, which might be another one of the defining characteristics of this episode. Is Grant could not gauge people's their core, whether they were good or bad people. He has a very hard time looking into somebody's soul and being like, they're worth it, they're not worth it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Somebody you don't want in power, I would say, of leading a country anyway, and bringing two countries back together.
Back together, yeah.
One, bringing a country where half of it is pretending to be a separate thing for a while.
Johnson, the unelected president, he's going to absolutely just tank Reconstruction and make it a shithole of disaster destruction. I mean, he's the first president to get impeached. We talked about that during the impeachment trial. Grant separates himself from Johnson, becomes very much a radical Republican, and that's not the same thing as what that means today. Basically, just him and Johnson have this massive falling out right before the end of the presidency, and where he gets elected in 1868. Grant comes in as a war hero, as a radical Republican ticket, secures that vote. And at first, it looks like things are going to go well, because once he becomes president, he immediately goes hard on Reconstruction after former Confederate sympathizers and terrorist organizations like the KKK. He deems them a terrorist organization. Anybody who's lynching black people, he goes after them. And then he suspends habeas corpus, specifically in South Carolina, where he goes and arrests anybody who's even remotely suspicious about being part of the KKK. Not a fan of the suspension of habeas corpus, but for that reason, and the fact that he ends the KKK's existence in his first term by going hardcore on them the way he did,
I mean, that's
I'm okay
good.
with that.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody was suspending habeas corpus back then. It was just what the presidents were doing. It was,
Yeah, once Lincoln does it.
What's a little habeas corpus here and there being suspended? Yeah. You get rid of the KKK. I'll give up my habeas corpus if you want to go ahead and get rid of the Nazis today. Or the KKK again. Get rid of that again.
Going to
Try
arrest all
it
the Nazis.
for that.
Yeah.
I'll be happy.
That might not be the worst.
Take away my
worst
habeas
plan.
corpus for a month. Fine.
Now, Johnny, unfortunately, he thinks his mission accomplished by the end of his first term, and by the second term, he stops doing those things. And wouldn't you know it, they come back. Specifically in Mississippi, the Red Shirts, which is a KKK-like group, goes off in lynches, is so bad that the appointed military governor of Mississippi is like, hey, we need military intervention. These guys are running rampant. Please help. And Grant vetoes that and says, nah.
Why does he? Is he not want to Was there?
He just thinks
did he
it's
not
not
want to like start
necessary.
another
He thinks,
war? Is he
I
trying to like avoid
don't
making
know.
it feel like, hey, maybe we don't send military again into a southern
Yeah.
state and like do that? Maybe that's not a good idea right now because I don't see why he would.
I don't know
against that
because
if
like
not
he
for
goes all that way
optics,
with the KKK,
right?
and then when an offshoot gets created, he's like, meh, it's fine. Yeah.
It's got to be he doesn't want the optics of the military going in and like.
But the military's kind of already there in all these places. I mean, during Reconstruction,
Yeah.
you have military occupation of all the states still, until those states, swear allegiance to the North, get recognized back in. Sworn. I mean, yeah, military occupation is still going on, and specifically because of horrible, awful groups like this that are rigging elections, lynching people, all that fun stuff. He does a lot to go against Congress's. So here's the thing with Grant. You've got radical Republicans that are like, me and you, Johnny, right now, would be considered radical Republicans, burn the entire South, make them pay for what they did. Any Confederate congressman, lynch them.
They're traitors,
At the very least,
treat
deport
them.
them. They're traitors. Yeah.
Let's set an example type.
That's radical. And then you got the less radical, which is like, let's just try to move on as fast as we can, repair it.
How I would actually be if like somebody came and like forced me to try to do anything about it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I'm very much red. I'm very much. Oh, man, yeah, go ahead, burn him at the same. And then somebody would be like, "Hey, what do you think we should?" I'd be like, I don't know. Let him. If we just talk to him a little bit, we'd probably be fine.
It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And so he goes against a lot of the carpetbagger policies that are put into the South, and that really pisses off the radical Republicans, and he starts losing face there pretty quickly. It doesn't help that he's really anti-immigrant as well. And he joins what's called the Know Nothings, which is a political group that's trying to like stop immigration into the United States.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not helping your image there, Grant. But the flip side of this is
okay.
Towards the end of his second term, he realizes that he made a mistake. He realized he didn't go like he didn't kill all the KKK and didn't go far enough. So he tries to create and pass and sign the Civil Rights Act of 1875, which basically guarantees that all people that are within the realm of the United States, subject to the laws and jurisdiction of the United States, are equal under the eyes of law, specifically in forms of every access that they have to items like entertainment, like going to a play. Everybody can go to the play. Going to your grocery store, everybody can go to the grocery store. Going to get a hotel room, everybody can get a hotel room.
Language in our Constitution.
All men are created equal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
something. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Those words precisely would go a long way in order to make sure this doesn't need to happen. If we just put that in there, we would know clearly.
Yeah.
Everybody has equal rights, and everybody has equal opportunity because all men are created equal.
Yeah, he signs that. It goes into law, and then it gets shot down by the Supreme Court after he's gone.
Because they're like,
it gets shot down by the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional, which is why we have separate but equal bullshit that exists. Because
they're not equal, you idiot. Not all men, dummy.
So again, it's like on some aspects, Grant does really bad things. On other aspects, like that Civil Rights Act is really good, but it doesn't matter because Congress.
Because the Supreme Court doesn't understand their job.
yeah, shits on it. Johnny, beyond all of that, shit, I lost my notes. God damn it, Corporal Tim. My shit flew all the way over the place. And like I said, is Reconstruction. It's a mixed bag. Moving on.
He tried.
Now there's a position on education. We've got all these presidents that have positions. He's got a position on education. In this one, I'm for it on paper because he goes very hard and he supports an amendment that doesn't pass, but it's so that no federal funding can go to any public education school that's attached to a religion. So he is hardcore separation between church and state. Very
Great.
good. So these private Catholic schools or these private Presbyterian schools would not
don't get our
receive
money,
any
yeah.
federal money.
Cool.
There's no allowed discussion of religion in public schools. Now, he does this because he's very anti-Catholic, which again is on the whole
I don't
immigrant
care
thing
why
with
he
the
does
Irish
it. He
coming
can be
over.
anti whoever the hell he wants. Keep church and state separate. That's part of it.
No, I agree. But this doesn't
Like,
pass.
Tommy, we have to
and
accept
then
it.
it creates,
At some point, we have to accept that nobody in the past was doing things for the right reason. We just have to celebrate when the right things were done,
Yeah.
even when
well,
they
it
were
doesn't
done
pass,
for the wrong
Johnny.
reason.
It doesn't pass. So,
Oh,
and what does
well,
happen,
okay.
though, is multiple states take Grant's lead and form anti-Catholic hate groups.
Well, shoot.
And
That's.
then start.
Hey, remember when we very first started this,
creating
and it was about unintended, well-intentioned bad
Well-intentioned,
decisions?
bad decisions. Yeah,
That's one of
that would
those,
be
huh? He
one of them.
meant well.
And speaking of
now all
speaking
of a
of
sudden
the
there's anti-Catholic hate groups. Although
Speaking of
not
that
enough
violent-
to scare off people from becoming a priest to molest children. So maybe
well,
we
true.
should maybe bring it back a little bit.
and speaking of violent, Grant does preside over one of the most violent periods of U.S. history over the civilian population, excluding like the Civil War, because you've got the racial problems down south with KKK murdering and lynching people, like
Yeah.
the massacres in Louisiana that killed 150 black men, and then anti-Catholic hate, and then Johnny, there's also Indians that we've got to talk about and his relations with the Indian population.
Well, but we're just moving them. Move on down. Get on down out of
So,
here.
At first, in his first administration, he puts a very progressive person ahead of the Indian Bureau's affair, which is very pro native rights, very pro let's end these wars, let's give them, actually honor the treaties that we signed with them. Grant takes massive steps into actually ending a lot of the Indian wars that were going on through the Civil War. Including acknowledging that Indians themselves are individual entities, that so if one native commits a crime, you hold that one native accountable. You don't hold the entirety of that tribe accountable. If there's going to be a ward of the state from an Indian, for whatever reason, it's that Indian, not that tribe. It does massive gains to actually get the Apache to sign peace treaties. We end lots of wars. Everything is great until gold is discovered in his second term
that changes
in the
everything.
Black Hills.
Yeah.
And despite the Treaty of Fort Laramie, which guaranteed the Lakota all that territory in the Black Hills, the Lakota, the Sioux, Cheyenne, all of them, I think it was. Anyways,
that's
Grant does
okay.
nothing to
History
prevent-
also forgot who used to be their lieutenant, so we don't have to
True.
remember.
So Grant
Because we
doesn't
took care of that situation. Because who's there now? The North Dakotans? Is that
Yeah, North and South Dakota, yeah.
cool? So
So
Americans,
he doesn't.
red-blooded, white-blooded Americans.
He doesn't
We
do
got the
anything
red-blooded
to
ones out.
stop people from flooding the Black Hills, including Custer, who takes his own military expedition that was supposed to be like stopping the miners from going into those hills, but instead Custer just goes and finds the gold himself. It creates a war. You get the Custer's Last Stand thing that happens. Grant actually pocket vetoes a law that would have prevented the buffalo from being slaughtered as a means to starve them out. Grant vetoes that, so
That's cool.
we exterminate
That's
a
neat.
species pretty much to starve out
very cool.
human beings.
Hey, but I hope that we just teach our kids that the white man didn't understand how the balance with buffalo, and that's why we overhunted them, and not because we wanted to intentionally starve out the native population and take away their primary resource.
Yeah, we definitely changed that narrative in school, didn't we?
It's just, oops,
and
they're silly
before-
little white people who don't know how to live off land.
Yeah. And before
Silly
he leaves
them.
office, Johnny, he forces the Sioux to sign away their rights to all that territory.
Oh, so he ended on a good note. There we go. That's perfect.
Sure. And Johnny, gold becomes important. Do you remember we asked why do we care about gold so much, right? Why do we care about Gold. Well, because see, Grant
What?
resides
What do you mean?
over
It's shiny.
one of our worst periods of depression in U.S. history because
Well, so far.
during the war, Lincoln issues paper currency. We get away from gold standards and we start to go off of fiat currencies like the paper greenbacks. We're still using those post-war. Grant doesn't like it. Rightfully so. I'm Team Grant on this one. So Grant wants to go back to the gold standard, so he makes sure that he starts putting laws in place where all federal debts will be paid back in gold. He starts reminting gold coinage. He basically sets it up for over the next 10 years, we would be back on the gold standard. On top of all of that, he starts paying back federal debt and starts to make measures for us to actually create a balanced budget to start getting ourselves out of debt. All those are good things, but unfortunately what it does is it tanks our economy for a while. Now, granted, over the course of those 10 years, we get stronger, but in that immediate, we're in a depression.
In the meantime, were a few people becoming very, very, very rich?
Yes, and so
then that's fine.
He wants
that's great.
That massive gold discovery in
What's
the
the
Black
problem?
Hills really helps fund a lot of these initiatives.
As long as a couple people are becoming very rich, I don't understand what the concern is.
Well, so speaking of that, Johnny, then you get your corruption that Grant has, which now to be fair, nothing that Grant did during his presidency was actually linked to any of these himself scandals. But holy shit, this is administration full of people that he picked and put into place that had massive amounts of scandals, including his brother-in-law, who teams up with this group of other investors, and they try to corner the gold market ahead of the gold standard being implemented. They convinced Grant to pause the sale of gold so that they could corner the market and steal what they could of it. This pisses Grant off when he finds out about it. Reissues the sale of gold, the market collapses. We've got that. But that's only the first of many of the scandals that happens in his administration. His vice president is tied up in the Credit Mobilier scandal, which is about the Transcontinental Railroad, and that was being built. Now, most of this was done underneath the Johnson administration, but it comes to light during Grant's administration, and of course Grant's VP, being one of the big players in it, isn't good. But essentially what happens is during the production of the Transcontinental Railroad, they create a lot of these little shell companies to boost up their numbers and to take on federal contracts and then just lie about the miles of rail that they're doing or lie about where the rail lines are going to go through. So they'll have all this land that they sell to create a city where they know that the rail line's not going to go through, but they sell it to investors there anyways and then pull the rug out from under. It's like Ponzi schemes. It's
this
pyramid
all just
schemes.
sounds like how the government works.
Yeah. But and Grant really sets it up. So you got that scandal. On top of that scandal, Johnny, you got the whiskey ring scandal, where one of his employees takes bribes from distillers to lower their numbers of productions on paper so that they pay less taxes, and then he just pockets the money and giggles on his way.
I mean, sure.
Until
So
that
he
got
hired a bunch of
discovered.
people who were not the best people. He couldn't hire well. He didn't do this shit. That's not him.
Johnny, but we're not done yet, because there's also the Indian ring
when he
where
did something. What? I thought this.
Where his appointees create these puppet companies to then go and supply the Indian front, all the U.S. forts on the Indian campaigns, on the Indian fronts. They support all the beef and all that stuff to them. A lot of that beef is rotten and bad, and then they pocket them.
Well, did they?
It's
know?
not a good look,
they don't
Johnny.
know the beef is. They're the mediator. What?
Yeah, there's.
Man, you're really passing.
I'm just telling you all the
through a
scandals
lot
that
of people who
existed
did a
during
lot of shady shit and be like, well, it's his fault, even though he didn't know what was going on.
Well, he knew. I mean, in any case, Johnny. Lastly, there is Grant's foreign policies, which mostly was not my problem. We just fought a massive war. We're not going to fucking touch anything.
That's fair,
except in the Caribbean.
Well,
really like the Caribbean. Really wanted to create
nice.
A new state somewhere in the Caribbean. And he starts with, so to be fair, There is Spanish issues with Spanish-occupied Cuba. There's rebellion starting to go off pretty much already in Cuba at this time. Grant's approach to this is, let's try to buy Cuba from Spain. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't work. He then turns to Santo Domingo, which is now Dominican Republic, and he tries to buy that. He's really interested in trying to buy that island from Haiti because he wants to... he liked Lincoln's idea of sending the men of color somewhere else.
Ah, shoot. Yeah, give him... Yeah,
so the plan was, in order to help fight the whole KKK shit, we'll buy this island, we'll set it up as a territory with statehood, and then we'll encourage all former slaves to go there, although it's not mandatory, it's not forced, and white people could go there too if they wanted, but it was going to be primarily like a black state for black people, ran by black people.
And it's great because nobody was there. It was an empty island.
Yeah, that sale never went through.
Oh, shocking. Weird.
So, and it also had bad taste in the mouth from Lincoln's failed experiment.
Also, that's a horrific
with the Isle of
idea,
HS, so.
And just that's terrible. Don't do that. What?
Yeah, don't do that. God, what we did do that though. There was Liberia. Is it Liberia? I think it's Liberia.
Probably. I don't know, man.
That was set up. Yeah. As something similar to that the U.S. helped. Anyways, yeah, that's Grant in a nutshell. Actual bad things he did.
Help, I'm in a nutshell.
Not responding to the red shirts was bad. The second part of his administration where they found gold and he just fucked over the Sioux. That was really, really. And that's about it though. Like, history likes to recognize this guy as being one of the worst drunks, one of the worst presidents that we had, but a lot of that's lost cause propaganda bullshit because he did a lot to fix a lot of that hatred in the South, but then it gets ignored and it goes back and middle of the road president. Great.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week. Or in 2 weeks. I don't know when we'll do another one of these. And I don't know what it's going to be about. But that doesn't matter. Join Tommy's Patreon. It's at historichindsight.com/Patreon/subscribe
it's
to me.
patreon.com/C/historichindsight.
Go ahead.
The link's in the description.
Yeah, it's $15,000 a month. Go ahead and subscribe, and it's well worth it. He will, if you subscribe, he will give you 7 of his own personal guns from his collection. So these statements need to be approved.
If you pay $17,000 a month, I will give you 7 guns from my personal collection.
A month?
No, just like this.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. $17,000 gets you 7 guns. That's a good deal if you ask me. His guns are worth hundreds of dollars a piece. Some of them.
Yep. Well, some of them are worth significantly more than that. Some of them are worth less than that. It's just kind of a crap. You don't get to pick what you get, though. You get what you get, and you don't pick a fit.
Yeah. For $17,000, you can't be too picky. For $170,000, you can pick which ones you want.
Oh, you can have everything for $170,000.
So, see ya next week. I don't know. Sign up. Figure out how to do that. They take credit card.